in the West or developed countries, and then we have got watered down edition, low cost, this. For the first time, people are expecting, and people like Professor Govindarajan have worked a lot on this, that innovation will happen in India of a certain circumstance, and it will solve problems of the world. And he mentioned about Africa and so on. Very interesting story is there's an app, we all know about Khan Academy, but there's a very interesting app for very early learners, which was created for a country called Malawi, which is the fourth poorest country in the world. They don't have any teachers and so on. It has been found to be so effective. Now UK wants to use it for all the children in the school. And this is the beauty of education. The beauty of education is that if you can hit upon a few good things, the world is actually your market. No hyperbole, nothing. It actually is, because the issues are common. And especially the new issues that we are talking about are absolutely, in terms of, so this is a very important thing. The other thing he mentioned was about the book and title. And I think that's a very interesting. I remember once, long ago, I'm very good friends with BPB publishers. So Manish Jain was after me, you write any book, just on top of it say e-commerce. That is all. Inside what you write, I don't care, but it will say. And that was the time, at that time, anybody, e-commerce means the book is sold. What you've written inside doesn't matter. Equally, on the other side, many of you may know there's a very famous book by the Mirdal couple called The Asian Drama. Have you heard of it? The Asian Drama is a book about economics. But in a very good library, it was put in literature because the title was Asian Drama. So I think this is, again, a very, very important aspect for this. I think Anupam has done a very good thing about actually showing you examples where money can be made. One thing that I want to say is that, and he mentioned about history, treat most of it as history. Don't try to copy this model. Build on this experience for the future. And the future is about mobiles and handheld. And everything that is going to happen in education will happen in the mobile space. All of the spaces are shrinking. They may continue for a while. For example, LMS. I have worked on a grand old LMS called Lotus Learning Space, which came out of Lotus Notes. Then there was WebCT. Then I actually taught a course as an adjunct faculty for a university in Chicago, an online course which was on Blackboard. Then WizIQ, we ran a course across 150 countries, 1,500 learners, etc. on WizIQ. But today, anything which doesn't work entirely on mobile, to me, is irrelevant. And I'm saying this because I have changed to purely now, I really don't use anything other than my iPhone and an iPad. But this is like multiple screens. Sometimes you need redundancy, but I have forgotten how to use this, although I began with punch cards and IBM 1620. There was a lot of temptation on me when I started this series. Many well-wishers said, you should give an advertisement in the newspaper. Somebody said you should go to the principals of the schools and tell them and make this kind of. And I said, I can't, because I am saying, only mobile, only this, I refuse. So even resources that I've created, actually if I pull them out, there will be 100 pages of resources which I've sent to some of you on email, and I've also put it on the website. I am using only two places. One is mmpant.wordpress.com, on which there is one page for this, on which you have the flow, the resource persons, readings, and there are two more things I put. One is an index for ICT awareness, index for innovative pedagogy awareness, but again I have not put it on any paper, it is on these kind of things. So the whole idea is that anything that will require anything other than a mobile, you are losing the future. And you must understand, we already have people who are 12-year-old or 15-year-old, are people born in the 21st century. So that idea that we think of when we were young or what was it is completely different. And I was once in a meeting and I had a very senior, because I am also old, but I tend to think of these people as old. So he is telling me that, reading on the mobile is so difficult, you can't do that, and therefore only books, etc. And I told them, do you have any idea that all these kids are spending all the time only on the mobile? They are not reading books. And in fact, it's not my UNESCO as a formal initiative of transforming books for mobile. But they realized the paper-based books are too expensive to produce, too expensive to distribute. And therefore, UNESCO now has, so it's not my personal fascination, UNESCO realized the only way you can solve problems of learning in Africa and developing countries is to give them books on mobile. I have many books on my mobile on Kindle. In fact, one of the most ironical one is I have a book called How to Read a Book on Kindle and mobile. So that's the ultimate. So that's a very important aspect. And while Anupam pointed to all these things, one thing which he has to add is creating apps. And I am a great believer that we need a template. In fact, you can quickly put it together. Create a template of an app for a professor. If Sonam Kapoor can have an app, if Virat Kohli can have an app, why don't all teachers have apps? And now, very interestingly, the whole education institution is a series, one app with all the professors there, one app for administration, one app for payment. You can connect it to Paytm, etc., and you've got a whole educational institution on the mobile and the app. And you can have various kinds. So to me, that is the way the future would be moving. I think we should kind of prepare ourselves for that. It has been a very nice morning session, and I have thoroughly enjoyed. And many people often wonder, why do I do this? And somebody actually asked me that without charging any fees, etc., where is the catch? The fact, there is no catch. I am purely doing it for my own learning. And you may not believe this, I genuinely mean. I have, long ago, I had formulated 3 laws of learning corresponding to 3 laws of motion of Newton. Everybody has heard Newton's laws of motion. And you see the interesting part is, if you look at Newton's laws of motion, the first law says, you can go, everything goes into state. Basically says, if you don't do anything, nothing will change. That is what Newton's law is. I mean, it may be taught in physics, but the law simply says, if you don't change, things won't change. And I am a great believer that you have to change. The second law is force and acceleration. The more effective the intervention, the greater the change. And the third one is, to every action is an equal and opposite reaction. This is why in any learning intervention which is meaningful, the audience or the learner or the student learns from the teacher, but the teacher also learns from the learner. And especially, and that's why an experienced teacher is important, because an experienced teacher has taught for a long time, therefore understands learner behavior much more than a fresh teacher. And I will share a quick story on this before we break for that. So when I started teaching, this would have been how many years? 1966 or so about 50 years ago. The first class that I took, fresh out of MSc, I am teaching, and I just don't remember. And I'm very amused because Anupam said that 1.5 घंटा कैसे बोलेंगे, and look like he can speak for another 2 hours. So he gets this thing, and that is what happened. So I did not look at any person face to face or eyes. I had whatever I had prepared. It was the board, myself, and everything that it was almost about to finish before the time was up and so. And one day when I was in IIT Kanpur, I went to one of my senior colleagues and said, "आज मैं experienced teacher हो गया." तो पूछा कैसे क्या हुआ आज? उनका मैं बिना कोई तैयारी के गया, 1 घंटा पूरा पढ़ाया और उसके बाद भी मेरे पास मैटर बचा हुआ था. And you would have noticed that in the first session, I did not even open my presentation. I've come with a presentation, some 50, 60 slides, but that is what a real engagement is, that you don't really need the crutch of a presentation or whatever. Summary, the future is very bright. It is especially bright for teachers. And I now want to say something which is almost blasphemy, and I will be stoned to death by other academics. Actually, selling and teaching is the same. I try to give a lot of distinction that teachers and selling, but teachers are selling. And if teachers were not selling, you wouldn't have that. See, JNU student is of one kind. The IIT student is of another kind. The Allahabad University student is of another kind. Because teachers have been selling their philosophy, their behavior, their role models. And Allahabad University student thinks IAS में जाना, cabinet secretary बनना most important. IIT वाला गवर्नमेंट जॉब देखता नहीं था. अब देखने लगे हैं, कुछ बेशरम IAS में भी जाने लगे हैं, पर पहले नहीं था. यानी कोई IIT में no IITian would do. The typical IIT Kanpur was summarized by Professor Sampath, who was the director. He used to say the day a student joins IIT Kanpur, that day his soul migrates to the US 4 years later, his body follows. So that is what an IITian was. He would never think of an IAS, etc., etc. So this is the kind of thing. So what we are saying is sales and actually I am a great believer. I don't say this in public, but all educators actually are the biggest salesperson. They don't themselves don't because they're selling philosophy. You look at Chicago School of Economics, one school of thought, some other school, that's thing, and they perpetuate that, and so on and so forth. They may not sell it for money, but that's a completely different issue. So we'll break, and after the break again, we've got one more volunteer from Green Workforce. So he will be talking a little bit about this thing, and then I will continue till the end. I want to create now a WhatsApp group for our team and so on and so forth, because you see, if you get interested, then this kind of a session is always not enough, and you want to continue conversations. So, and I am a great believer in WhatsApp as a very good solution. I've tried doing that earlier, and I want to do that in future. So I would request you in some manner to have your name, mobile number, and email, and give it to Mr. Khoshiram, so he will assemble it, because I don't have all the information for everybody. And then we'll have a WhatsApp group to follow up on that. Aap kar lenge isko. So let's break for lunch and we'll get back.